Thank you for such an auspicious welcome. Welcome to the Voice Over Today audio podcast. I'm your host, D. Foster III, CEO and President of Wake Up Global Networks International. We are the podcast with an eye on the culture. You know, here we discuss relevant issues, trending topics, and we do our thorough investigative journalism. You know the spiel at the beginning: like, share, subscribe, follow. And let me ask, have you checked out our Voiceover Now podcast every Friday? It's live upload. You don't want to miss this Friday. We're talking about a relevant issue, and especially if you are a parent, you want to tune in. Have you been visited Sunday morning where we give you an inspirational word for the week? It is the Voice of Hope Connection every Sunday morning. The live upload is at 7 a.m. And of course, welcome to the replay crew. You can always go back and replay all of our audio on this channel. Want to shout out to the owner and operator, April J, for allowing us to have a voice on this wonderful platform. Make sure, again, you like, subscribe, share, and follow. Well, y'all, you know, I try to get away from it, but you know, I can't. It just keeps happening over and over and over and over again. You know, say it ain't so. Say it ain't so, but it is so. Today's podcast is called The Problem with Identity Politics as I See It. Now, I'm going to discuss this in depth in the next few weeks on my Friday podcast, but I had to touch this. Identity politics. This is the issue with us, especially with all due respect with African American people. And I know some people get upset. But again, our podcast, straight, no chaser. I don't do redactive podcasts. I don't do quoting somebody else. But we give it to you straight, no chaser, our opinion, and that's what we're here to do. Not to tell you how to think, but to tell you just think, and we present the facts. The problem of identity politics, as I see it, is this. Now, first of all, let's talk about what is identity politics. Is when we get behind somebody politically for a reason that we can identify with. Maybe they're the same ethnic group. Maybe they're the same religion, social background. Maybe they're the same educational status, economic status. But it has absolutely nothing to do with whether they can do the job or not. And you know, I raised this on this podcast last week when it came to Washington, D.C., Trayon White. And I won't get into that this podcast, but I am going to follow up on that story. And instead of considering whether they can do the job, whether they are competent to do the job, we just vote for them because of their identity matches something with our identity. Now, if they can do the job, I am not against, let me say it, I am not against identity politics. I am vehemently against it when your identity politics has nothing, zero, to do with their qualifications, their background, and their ability to work on the behalf of the people. Now, you may say, like, share, subscribe, follow, share this, please. You may say, oh, come on, D. Foster III, this doesn't exist today. Oh, really? Well, how else can Trayon White, with all the evidence that he's been presented to, allegedly taking bribes up to $153,000 in cash, allegedly getting money for trips to send his girl away, allegedly, and yet still have the number of support? Well, he helped the community. Well, he's a black man. They just trying to pull him down. No. We got to get away from that identity politics. The evidence speaks for itself. It's not about black, white, or other. It's about honest. It's about integrity, and it's about who's working for the people. And I'm not saying Trayon White didn't start off working for the people, but a lot of times, when you come from the neighborhood, you try to represent. And I'm going to deal with that because 50 Cent had a very powerful word on that. People say, well, how can you last all of these years coming from the background you came from and build studios and become an executive? You know what 50 said? Trayon, I moved out of the neighborhood. But that's another whole story. But here it is again, and it has nothing to do with I'm a black man. Here it is again. And this time it's former Prince George's councilman pleads guilty on Monday in a scheme that prosecutors said involved his own campaign funds. Come on, y'all. The money that people gave to put him in office, to represent them, he robbed from himself. Now, this is worse. This is low. Let me read. According to the Washington Post, according to prosecutors, Mel Franklin, former councilman of PG County, took more than $124,000. Trayon 154, Mel Franklin allegedly 124 from his Friends of Mel Franklin campaign account and used the money to pay, watch this, for personal loans in debt, living above your means, credit cards, debt, his rent, and get this one. I mean, you ready for this one? You ready for this one? Cosmetic procedures, among other things. The charges also said Franklin falsified reports to the State Board of Elections regarding expenditure. See, and again, I'm not saying Franklin wasn't qualified. They said he did a good job. But once you show yourself unworthy to serve because of integrity, everybody makes mistakes. I'm not talking about that. But $124,000 theft is no mistake. $154,000 bribery is no mistake. Then I think we have to see things and see people for what it is. And my contention on this podcast is even when we are presented the evidence, because of identity politics, we continue to still make excuses and still cover from individuals. Let me finish reading. Franklin pleaded guilty on Monday to a felony that scammed over $100,000 and perjury. He lied. As a part of the plea, he agreed of a sentence of 5 years with all but one suspended on both counts. The sentences will run concurrently, and he has to pay restitution of $133,000. We've got to stop the identity politics. Now, there were those who said, well, Franklin was a good man. Franklin served. Franklin was for the people. I'm not denying all of that, but that does not cover the fact. That does not cover the fact that allegedly Franklin stole more than $100,000 from his own campaign fund that people gave because they believed and because they trusted in Franklin. And all I'm saying is there has to come a point in time. There was a Marilyn Mosby. There was a Sheila Dixon. And I'm not picking on people of color. I'm just saying identity politics. And other races do it too, but I am not other races. I'm speaking now because it's hitting hard. We are suffering enough. And I feel like when people have the confidence to vote you in an office, to serve you, and they put their money behind you, then we have the responsibility, to the best of our integrity, to live up to the expectations. Whether it's Franklin, whether it's D. Foster III, whether it's John Brown or Amy Simmons or whoever, we have to stop the identity politics saying, oh, well, they were a good person. I remember when Marilyn Mosby issue happened, the former prosecutor of Baltimore, Maryland, and she was found convicted of a lying. And I canceled that story, but I'm coming back to that story out of sympathy for her. I canceled that story at the time that it broke, but I am coming back to that story. But while all of us were in COVID and while people were struggling, she applied for COVID relief funds and bought houses. And yet there's still some people free. Marilyn Mosby free. We've got to stop the identity. You know what? I'm going to get into this because this is inheritance from slavery. Yeah, this is what this is. This is a legacy of slavery that nobody wants to talk about. But I'm here to talk about it. Don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe to this channel. Mel Franklin, I'm going to follow this story. At least his story is a little cleaner than Trayon White. He admits he's guilty, and he's going to serve his time and get out and hopefully be a normal citizen, but not reelected to a political position. You said God is a God of a second chance. This has nothing to do with second chance. You stole, you broke trust, and you violated the confidence of the people who put you in to serve them. Don't we go through enough without having our own leaders to constantly and continually to betray us? Listen, if you like this, like, share, subscribe, follow. I want to hear from you. Our email address is thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com, thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com. Make it locked in for this Friday's upcoming podcast, The Voice Over There podcast. Until next week, this is D. Foster III reminding you have a voice. Keep lifting it.